and I'm sincerely disappointed that you've chosen to use the committee's time and resources on this topic of expanding abortion access rather than conducting legitimate oversight of President Biden's administration and his disastrous policies. Disastrous policies. We're discussing the Democrats' assertion that we must expand access to a procedure that has killed an estimated 62 million babies since Roe v. Wade was decided. Just last week, the House passed legislation that, if enacted, would codify Roe v. Wade and would make every state in the country a late-term abortion state. And last week, the Democrats voted not to preserve the life of a baby born alive after an abortion. So I'm really disturbed by this, the premise of this hearing. But I want to go, Dr. Scope, I'm going to go read some statements with regard to certain findings in an article that I will submit to the record later, Madam Chair. This is from a journal called Journal of Medical Ethics by Dr. Stuart Derbyshire and John Bachman, who wrote, "Current neuroscientific evidence supports the possibility of fetal pain before the consensus cutoff of 24 weeks. In fact, they go on to conclude that a baby in utero may feel pain as early as 12 weeks. Your comments, please.
You know, that article is very interesting because Dr. Derbyshire is well known as an expert in the field. And in fact, ACOG, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, in their statement saying that fetal pain does not occur until the third trimester, quoted Dr. Derbyshire. The other paper that they quoted was Susan Lee, and that was a very biased paper written by abortion provider. Nonetheless, Dr. Derbyshire is a pro-choice man, but he also is willing to follow the science where it goes, and he has become convinced with his research that there is compelling evidence that pain exists as early as 12 weeks. His previous statements, he went and said, you know what, I was wrong. So it takes I wish we could all do that we could all re-examine our biases and look at the current evidence and decide that perhaps in some ways we have been wrong.
Thank you. And from another piece, I'm going to quote from it. Today, during a fetal surgery, a specialist in fetal anesthesia is invariably present to administer a general anesthetic to the baby as well as a paralytic agent and an opioid. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. That is the standard of care for fetal surgery.
And why would you provide fetal anesthesia and a paralytic agent and maybe even an opioid to a fetus receiving surgery?
Because in that case, the fetus is the patient. He is desired. The cognitive dissonance that applies to abortion does not apply to him, and so he is treated with care and respect.
I was struck by your earlier testimony that your training was that when you're treating someone who's pregnant, you're treating two patients. Expand on that, please.
Well, I entered the field of OBGYN because I love the moment that a new baby is born is the most fabulous thing. If you haven't seen it, you just have to be there to just recognize the miracle of life. I love women as well as the fetuses. So I don't want you to think, and I think the allegation has been made that somehow I've taken the fetuses side. I just think that women suffer from having this choice so readily available, socially, physically, mentally, in many cases. You know, I wanted to say something related to the accessibility, which kind of relates to what you just said. You know, I'm a provider in San Antonio, and we have many rural women who live around us. We're about 2.5 hours from the border. So I have patients who come to see me early in pregnancy once a month, later every 2 weeks, the final month of pregnancy weekly, from those border cities, driving 2.5 hours each way so that I can care for their baby. So people are concerned that people might have to make 2 trips to abort their baby, but people who desire a baby many times make that trip multiple times, which speaks to maybe we should be expanding access to hospitals and prenatal care in rural areas instead of just prioritizing abortion.
Madam Chair, my time has expired. I'd like to, without objection, submit a couple of articles to the record, and I'll submit those.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam Chair.